We've done skis, we've done boots. Today, we're doing bindings. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mountain Vibes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. So today, gonna do one of those more like extended videos, one of those like buyer's guide kind of things. Try to give you as much information as possible. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so before you actually decide on what binding you want to get, you kind of have to determine where you see yourself skiing the most. So if you're more of a resort skier inbound, stick with the traditional alpine binding. They're gonna give you the most, or they're gonna give you that best secured, locked in feeling. If you're someone who wants to kind of go and do a little bit more exploring, you could go for an AT binding or a frame binding. This allows you to kind of go uphill, kind of go across the hill by having the heel release, but you still kind of have that nice solid locked in feeling. If you're someone who's looking to reduce the weight and do more of a hut trip and actually go up the mountain, I'd actually suggest getting a proper alpine touring binding or a tech binding. These ones are the ones with the little pins on it, but you do need a specific boot setup for this. They will be lightweight and it kind of helps you get up the hill. Now, some people would argue that they aren't the most solid, so it really just depends on what you want. All right, so now when it comes to setting your bindings correctly, I highly recommend going to a shop and having them do it. They follow what's referred to as a DIN chart. Now, DIN is an acronym for Deutsches Institut für Normung. Sure, I'm sorry if I have any German audience. I'm so sorry that I butchered that, but essentially that is just like the way that DINs are set. So also another thing is, if you're not too sure what a DIN is, if you look at a binding, you're gonna see some numbers written on it, and that's pretty much what it is. That is your release setting for your boots, for your bindings. Like as I said, that there's a chart shops follow. It is all based on your height, your weight, your skiing ability, the sole length of your boot. So that's why you always fill out those forms and make sure that all the information that you've given these shops is correct. So one thing to consider when you're buying bindings is what the DIN range on a binding is. So occasionally you'll see some bindings that start at 3.5, 4, and then whatever they max out at, 10, 11, 13, numbers like that. So generally, if you're a much stronger skier and you really don't want to pop out, you will be setting your DINs significantly higher. Now, you also don't want to max out a binding, or you also don't want to be at the bottom of the DIN range. The reason for this is that if you've maxed it out, there's no way for the binding to really hold you in if by chance if you do have like a larger impact, or if you like really push the skis hard, you're just going to fall out of them. So you kind of have to make sure that you do have a little bit of space. So let's say if you want to ride it at 9, make sure you're riding an 11 or a 12 DIN binding. And at the same time, if you're a little bit on the lighter side, you don't want to start with something that's like really high up in the DIN range, because let's say if you are supposed to be set at a 4.5 or a 5 and the binding starts at 8, you're not going to fall out of that. The binding itself is going to be way too strong for your type of skiing ability. So just keep that in mind, that when you're looking at bindings, kind of figure out what your DIN range is. Talk to the sales associate, talk to your ski tech, and they can figure out what you'll be set at, and then that way they can help determine what binding would be right for you. All right, so the one feature that some bindings will have is an AFD, or what's referred to also as an anti-friction device. So that's this little piece right here. So this allows your boot to slide out a lot more freely. If you have any like snow buildup like underneath your toe, you may stick inside the binding. So if you're someone who tends to ski a little bit harder, you could look for something that has one of these little devices here. Most binding manufacturers will have a binding that does offer it. So look at that, when you are trying to figure out what binding is that you want. Another thing you could look into is what's referred to as elasticity or elastic travel. Now, the whole purpose of this is that the binding kind of releases a little bit, acts more like a shock absorber on heavy impacts, without the whole thing completely releasing and you falling out of your ski. So a lot of higher end bindings will provide you with a little bit more elasticity, just to kind of hold you in there, just so that you're able to ski really, really hard and not have to worry about popping out of your bindings, and kind of aids you with a little bit more shock absorption. And then I'll just quickly go over mounting points as well. When you look at a ski, you'll see different points of where it actually should go. Now, I would highly suggest sticking to where the manufacturer actually suggests where to put your bindings. Now, the reason for this is like they have tested the ski different mounting points, and they've figured out that to get the best performance out of the ski that they're trying to, or that they've made, stick to that specific point. I know there's a few park people out there that probably want to go dead center. You could do that, but make sure that you're actually with a ski that allows you to mount it dead center. Because what'll happen is if you have a little bit of rocker in a ski and you go too far center, it's going to be a little wonky. You're going to feel almost like too far forward. So, stick to with what the manufacturers are telling you. It's to get the best performance out of your gear. So if you're someone who's been skiing for a while and you've been sticking with like a particular brand for most of like your skiing life, it's not a problem to just stick with what you know. If you're a look person, stick with them. If you're a marker person, stick with them. The only thing that I would suggest is like, ask people at your local shop, is there any new tech? Is there something that you can find beneficial to, kind of help enhance your skiing experience? So that's it for me for today. That's Ski Bindings. Hopefully you found this video helpful and informative. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section below. If you like this video, hit that button. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.